What did our civilization produce? Values, Upanishads, writings. They did not produce Upanishads. I'm just not teaching anything that was published more than 5 or 10 years ago. The high school students can understand. These are research books and they are small textbooks of 4 lines. In between we have nothing. It is time we definitely incorporate this, and those who produce the books and the government that assigns them, they should definitely change what is written. Teachers should encourage students to read more and more, not just the textbooks.
In a most scientific way, it has been proved that Krishna existed as a human being and Dwarka is a part of our very own history. The moment you say that, as I also studied few things in Dr. Rao's research, it changes the chronology of the said historical things, that hurts the Western so-called ego, maybe. It proves that our civilization is the oldest civilization.
Well, you see, there were many old civilizations. The Egyptian goes back to 3000 BC, the Chinese 2000 BC, our Vedas go back to 3000 BC, this goes to 2500 BC as well, right? So, different aspects, there were different cultures. Mayan was pretty late, right? But we have, even the Aegean is a little later than here. That is, the pre-Greek is called Aegean civilization. But there were different civilizations, but it's like, what did those civilizations produce? Kings, queens, paintings, pyramids, right? What did our civilization produce? Values, Upanishads, writings. They did not produce Upanishads. And what does the Upanishad say? The greatest challenge for man is to understand, how should I be? How should I live? How should I think, right? And we are giving you the answers to that. Similarly, there's Chinese also that gives Confucianism and Taoism that does that, but that's later. And it has borrowed a lot from Buddhism and incorporated into Taoism and Confucianism, right? So India was the one who did. The Upanishads are the most grassroots, basic. And it is an inquiry. It's not just a belief. Inquire for yourself. Who are you, right? And what should you do? That is what exactly Krishna is telling Arjuna. Think who you are. Think from different perspectives. Right? Don't just accept me as everything. In the end, he shows you that what is this world and what is this wonder of the world. And so we do acknowledge a higher spirit, right? That I am not the doer. It is in your nature to drink and eat and sleep. But we keep thinking, I am doing this, I am doing this. My father always said, I am not the doer. I am not the doer. There is something in me that tells me to tell Indira Gandhi, who asked, what are you going to discover? Do you want so much money? I'm going to discover Dwarka. He had never thought about it. It just came on spot and he resolved that he's going to do it, right? So it is this aspect that, there is something higher, whether you see it or don't see it, whether you see it in a temple, whether you have an icon, whether you don't have an icon. Whatever ways it is, to acknowledge ultimately. Once your intellect has thought about it from all different perspectives, then you surrender.
India is the homeland of world's oldest and richest civilization. And there was no Aryan invasion. The moment you say it, it changes so many other equations in our history. In India, which is having the largest population of this richest civilization, people don't even know that we belong to the oldest civilization of the world. And so many other narratives have come up, but not this one. So many discoveries and so much of work has been already done on this, but still it's not in public narrative, it's not in general perception.
Yeah.
What is the reason? Is there any conspiracy from the elite countries, or I don't think so, but still, why is it has not in public domain? It's not there in
Well, firstly, we have a colonial mind. We accept what the whites tell us, and what was written by Percy Brown long time ago, and we still continue to use that, right? So we don't change. India doesn't change much. While in other countries, when I'm teaching, I'm looking at all the new books and all the new researches, and I'm teaching my students. I'm just not teaching anything that was published more than 5 or 10 years ago. So no, we don't look at Percy Brown, we don't at Book Club, and so that is the difference. The education system has to incorporate this way of understanding history, okay, and the scope that this has for understanding our history, the researches, archaeological, art historical, sociological, right, so that things might be corrected. When the British came, they didn't understand many things, so they started doing it, right? It's not that we totally blame them for them. That was their perception. They didn't have deep knowledge. They tried to do something, but it is time we definitely incorporate this, right? And those who produce the books and the government that assigns them, they should definitely change what is written.
Regarding the work that has been done by Dr. S.R. Rao, what more needs to be done now from the government, from the public, and from the society as well?
Well, firstly, there's a lot of things called preservation. Okay, so now, for example, Lothal is now being preserved. A new museum is being built because the old museum was leaking with water, with the artifacts, right? And then we need to have school children go there and show them about what it was. We need to have some experiential centers that show the continuity, right? We need to have historians, right, write in a manner which the modern youth and high school students can understand. These are research books and they are small textbooks of 4 lines. In between we have nothing, right? So whether it is university professors who write, right, whether it is other people. So we have this idea that university professors should not write, small books like this, right? And this is not my way. That is not true. It should be like a story form, right, with authenticity and easy reading, and give funding for those who are writers and publishers. And all libraries should carry such books, right? And teachers should encourage students to read more and more, not just the textbooks. So so we have, for example, we have a foundation called S.R. Rao Memorial Foundation over here, the archaeology, art and culture, that we have done a lot of lectures, annual lectures. We will install scholarships and educate the public, right, and produced many books such as the one we have over here, and have conferences and workshops. So we are trying to do this and continue to do this now.
At a more larger level, what would you expect from the government of India or the people of India? What do you expect from them to do about?
Well, we need an institution, right? That is what he wanted. He wants to have an institution for linguistics. India has the largest number of languages in the world. We have no institute of linguistics, because we had so many migration, Shakas and Yuchi tribes and Parthians, Greeks and Romans all mingled together, right, about the people. We have so many different languages. We don't have institute for linguistics, an institute for Indus script, an institute that shows Indus to to Mahabharata period. This is a very trying, complex period, right? And once it comes to Buddhist period, we quite know what all happened. It is very clear for us, right? So we need an institute that will not just make you understand, right, but have a huge building where you can take students, explain to them, have docents explaining to them, to high school, to middle schools, to college, right? And that alone is going to change, right, about our ancient history and why it is so important, because it gives you values for life. It gives you values for life.
ಮಹಾಭಾರತ ಮತ್ತು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಎಸ್ ಆರ್ ಅವರ ಸಂಶೋಧನೆಗಳ ನಡುವಿನ ಸಿಮಿಲಾರಿಟೀಸ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೇಳಿ.
See, as you know, Krishna was part of the Mahabharata war, and there is Gita, right? And we know how he occurs many times, right? But what happened is, he has always been reading the Gita and all. He never imagined that he would ever discover Dwarka at all, right? But when he was posted to Baroda, there's this big Dwarkadish temple of 15th century AD, and they were putting, all houses were right there on the wall of the Dwarkadish temple. So he started clearing them, and he excavated, and he found 11th century temple, Vishnu temple, 9th century temple, a Shatvahana brick temple, and further what we call as lustrous redware, which is like a pottery. And if you go to that, then you know the date. It is 1500 BC. So if 1500 BC is, or later, is also the date when the Saraswati river went down. So what was happening to post Harappan people, Indus Valley, were they here? If they have moved here, right? So let me go, and he discovered images of Vishnu as well. So let me go and explore. So he explored all of the west coast, and there he found the wall in low tide of the wall. So he started, excavating, and they felt boys, and he saw dressed stone and exactly how it is kept. So it was all drawing done. So, and he aligned the gates and the bastions, and it is built exactly like how they built in the Indus Valley period. And it is built exactly as it was built later in Sanchi and Buddhist period as well. So there's a continuity of the way they are building. And so he came up that this was a city. And so that before that he read the Mahabharata and all the detailed descriptions. Okay, firstly, where was Dwarka? Was it what he also went to Jain sources because they are quite accurate, right? Is it Kushasthali or is it some other site that's Dwarka, right? And why was it called Kushasthali and then it became Dwarka? So he read all that Harivamsha and how it describes, and then tried to tally textual and material, right? And he tallied the together, and he said, why can't it be of any other period, right? Why should be of Krishna? So, so he explored all that and got the script and so on, so forth. Will we get more things? We might, but we just need a capable archaeologist who can do this, who knows Indus, who knows Mahabharata, who knows this, and goes forward along with the National Institute of Oceanography that helped him, right? And he also said the sea has risen. So every year if it's going to rise, then Dwarka has submerged. So, and then he went to the periplus of the Erythraean Sea. There were 7 islands from 3 islands. Now we just have 1 island because the sea has encroached. So, and of course he also talks about mangroves that are growing there. How can preservation be done? Are we going to bring everything out? He said, no, it's going to spoil everything, right? So let it be inside, but make sure industries don't come and mango trees don't grow there, and all those things are not done.
Can you tell us about Dr. S.R. Rao's life and most thrilling moments of his life?
Yeah, I mean, he has had a very hard life. Okay, he was born in Shimoga, and and he came in first class. So he was very poor, and so his father took him to an orphanage in Mysore and told the person, this boy does not have father. So they kept him in an orphanage where he ran for rice early morning, slept on the ground, and got a gold medal in Mysore Maharaja's College. Right from there, he did his masters in history, ancient history, and luckily he got a job in the archaeological survey in Baroda. So there he started excavating Amreli and Rangpur and Shishupalgarh and worked with big archaeologists, right, and discovered Lothal 1952, and that was a big deal because the first Indus Valley site, which he excavated for 13 years, and he would go village to village asking, do you have an old man with beard and thing? And he said, oh, why? I have these pottery, broken pots. And they would say, oh, why do you have broken pots? I'll give you a big nice pot, come home. He said, no, I don't want a big nice pot. And have you seen big bricks? And there was a marriage party going. And so, they said, yes, I found big bricks behind my backyard. And so he started excavating, and all Wheeler and all the archaeologists all over the world came, and he proved that this is a scientifically tidal dockyard built for ships to come via the river, right, and bathe here, and there was a lot of trade. So he found beads and skeletons and golden necklaces, right, and the beads are so small of that necklace, no jeweler can make it today. No, right, the big industry was there. And so, weights and measures and scale, all that tallies with the Vedic period of scale and weights and measurements and angula, right? So there's a lot of tallying that goes on, and he discovered that. But he was always so dedicated. He was so dedicated to wherever he went, to different places, whether it's Agra or Delhi, and he was in Nagpur. So he did lots. Wherever he went, he did excavations, and he saw that his monuments are kept clean. Like Aihole Pattatkal Badami, he was the one who did that, because they would put cow dung on the temples, right? And he excavated Theyur and Kaneri, and even Siddhapur. And if there was a mosque that was there, and he said, yes, we'll repair your mosque, no problem. Excavated, found the linga, and gave it to them, and so he said, history should be discovered, and this is our heritage. If we lose this, what do we have? How are we ever going to show the inscriptions, right? The images. So a lot of interest should be developed, right, to understand and interpret, because there's a lot of scope in this area. You can produce videos, you can produce children's books, you can produce drawings, right? You can do a lot, and then when tourists come, you can have an app where they can just click and understand what it is. So it was a hard life, but he was very dedicated, and he never was discouraged, whatever happened in his life, and he would always teach us locals, that start something and never give up, right, and continue to do. And he worked till he was 90. At the age of 90, he produced a book on Indian script. He wrote a book. He couldn't see well, he could hear well, but he wrote a book.
He achieved a lot. ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಎಸ್ ಆರ್ ರಾವ್ ಅವರಿಗಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಮಹತ್ವದ ಸಂಶೋಧನೆಗಳು ಇನ್ಯಾವುದು ಆಗಿಲ್ವೇನೋ ಅಷ್ಟರ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ he has contributed to Indian history. What was his, above all that, was there any ultimate goal which was not yet been achieved for him?
Actually, you know what, with so much work, he always said, he didn't himself say it, but he just felt, and we understood what he felt. He should have been given a title, Padma Vibhushan or Padma Bhushan, but he was not the one who went after people for it. He was not in Delhi. He was just doing his work. Wherever he went, he wrote books. He was invited for conferences to Russia and America and Australia. He just kept going there because the West was very receptive to what he was saying, right? And they were very interested, right, in learning from him. And so this is how he kept himself busy. But we just feel that such a title should have been given to him, because he worked his day and night for the Indus script. I dreamt about it, right? And in fact, the big book, the Indus script, which is out of print, we are getting it reprinted now. It is such an authentic work where and we would skip in our house, on the floor. It was all spread all the time. We would skip and jump and walk in our house, right? And he had drawings done, and he said from basic science, there was a 22 basic science, how they joined words like hapta and sapta, that only Sanskrit joins words, pa and ta, no other language joins it. So, and then we have the stroke system, 1, 2, 3, so stroke system, and then he related it to the Rigvedic Sanskrit, right? So he could bring, and he learned languages. He learned Semitic, he learned Avestan, he learned all those languages. And our books, this thing were full of books of languages when he was doing that, right? And he learned it all by himself, and he was bold enough, he had the intuition that this is the language I'm going to decipher, and he deciphered it. And yet, there's not been much acknowledgement by Indian